Well, you said that the DoorDash deliveries were slow, so did it eventually pick up?
It picked up a little bit, which was nice, but then I ended up in like the middle of nowhere. I was so far from home, and then that's when you called me. I was like, okay, I'm done. I'm not staying out here.
What did you end up delivering today?
A bunch of random things. I'm pretty sure I delivered to somebody who has COVID because they wanted an at-home test, and then a couple FedEx packages, random food, and something called mochi nut, which smelled disgusting. Like my car smelled like a fart. I can't believe people would eat that.
So is it some kind of like exotic delicacy?
I have no idea. I'm assuming it's just mochi, but mochi doesn't smell like that to me. That smelled like somebody farted in a bag and just like, here you go. Like it was gross.
What an appetizing bite. You know what I'm noticing on this Zoom video? So I think last
Mhm.
week you and I didn't have haircuts, and I think this week we both have sort of the shaved head haircuts right now.
I think we did it at the same time, John.
Yeah, I mean, we're recording this the Friday before New Year's weekend, and since I had some Christmas travel plans, I thought, I gotta freshen up because it just seems weird to just go into Christmas travel plans with bedhead and a weirdly not shaven beard. It's
Mhm.
awful.
It is. Like I was like, oh, it's Christmas. Maybe I should actually put some care into my appearance.
So the washer dryer delivery for my wife and I at our new house, it didn't go exactly as expected because, of course, we live in an old house that was built in like 1900. So every now and then we're coming across reminders that you got to do some fixing to get this house to where you want it to be. So
Mhm.
the guys, they come downstairs with the washer and dryer. They were able to get it successfully in this room by the basement stairs. But then we find out that there's this really old hose that we need for the washer that needs to come undone that is just so fastened tightly. And understandably, the delivery guys were like, oh, yeah, we don't want to deal with that because that's like a liability issue for them. So I was like, okay, let's get the dryer coming downstairs and maybe that'll work out.
Uh-huh.
Turns out that that gray tinfoil hosey thing that connects to a dryer. We need a longer one. We don't have a long enough one to connect our new dryer to whatever the house has. So it's like, oh, okay. So we got the pieces, we got the washer and dryer. We just need to do these little things here and there to actually make the hookup happen. And of course, Tony, my wife, she's more of a handyman than I am. She's like, oh, fuck it. I'll just get some WD-40 and, I can fix this myself. And blah, blah, blah. And I'm just like, all right, whatever. You do you.
Tony's got it. She's got it covered. John, you're just gonna support, and then that washer and dryer will be going.
Yeah. I mean, no room for insecure male thing that I sometimes tend to have where it's like, oh, God, I'm the man. I should be a handyman. Nope. I've gradually accepted more and more that I have no interest or skill in that kind of thing. If I have a wife who has the interest and skill in that kind of thing, then I will only say one thing. Where do you need me?
Right?
Oh man, I love it. But anyway, before we get started, I just want to give a shout out to a few people on social media. We've been getting some good feedback about the Peter Fitzsimmons interview. Of course, for you listening, you can find us almost anywhere at Family Matters Rewatch Pod, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Threads, YouTube. Yeah, we have people like Neil, Artie, and Will on Facebook, at Babblecat and at Toy Aliens on YouTube saying nice things about how much they enjoyed the interview and how actually one person even stood out and said, yes, pre-Urkel episodes are some of my favorites. I love this attention. So I like that we're giving Peter and the pre-Urkel era its flowers.
Yes, you all deserve it, and I'm happy that you're listening.
Yes, keep on listening, please. We appreciate all the support. And speaking of listening, you are listening right now to the delicious recap. Family Matters, our weekly rewatch of the 90s sitcom Family Matters. Now, I am always going to be John Francois. Andrew A.J. Vandertunt, which character have you decided to be this week?
Today, I am Rachel. I am Rachel because she and I were kindred spirits at one moment in this episode, and I would have done exactly what she did.
Okay, so I guess that's a great way to segue into your thoughts. What are your thoughts about this episode? And what about Rachel like really connected with you this episode? Because I think was it Rachel's first date that you wanted to be Rachel's bag, or was it another Rachel centered episode that you wanted to be Rachel's bag?
I think it was Rachel's first date, but what bag does she have? The gym bag. I liked her little gym bag. Her little gym outfit was cute. Today on this episode, I'm relating to Rachel because I love to flirt with a man, and she knew what she was going to do.
Wait. Was she flirting with the Thrill Morgan?
She was going to flirt with him, and I was like, "Ooh, that's me. That is me to a T. If there's somebody rich and famous in my house, I'm doing exactly what Rachel did because she knows how to get a man."
It's interesting because beside the whole like, oh, Carl is pressuring Eddie once again, and this time it's in basketball form. Aside from that, I mean, I do remember Harriet and Mama Winslow being blushy. I certainly remember Mama Winslow's blushy moment toward Will the Thrill Morgan. That was funny, but I don't remember Rachel so much. Wow, that's interesting.
It's a good scene, John. It's a good scene. Rachel knew what she was doing. And she made those brioche buns, which looked amazing, but I'm pretty sure it tasted terrible.
Because there's that B story where Rachel attempts to cook and it doesn't really go well. I totally forgot about that.
Rachel has like a good little storyline in this episode. She kind of stole the story in this episode for me. Like the basketball and the Eddie Winslow and all was great, but Rachel kind of came in as the silent killer in this episode.
All right. I'm very curious to hear further about that. We're talking about season 1, episode 6, Basketball Blues. Original air date November 3rd, 1989. Written by Gary Gold, directed by James O'Keefe, who actually directed Two Income Family, episode 2 of this season. Our guest star, oh God, is it Jacques? Jacques? Is that how you pronounce his first name? Maybe
I think Jacques. That's what I'm going to go with. It's giving me like that kind of vibe.
Yeah, like, ooh, I'm Jacques, and I'm going to be sassy to you for no goddamn reason.
I kind of like it. And he was a little sassy character.
I think because I don't want to keep screwing up his pronunciation, I'm going to call him Mr. Bolton throughout. Jacques Apollo Bolton. Mr. Apollo Bolton is guest starring as Will the Thrill Morgan, and we have a special announcement. He has officially cited his interest in being on our podcast through many back and forth LinkedIns. And I hope he's doing well health-wise because he did have some COVID. There was a little bit of a delay there. We were supposed to interview him earlier, but it looks like sometime in the month of January, we're going to record his interview. We'll put it out there as soon as we can. We are going to get Will the Thrill Morgan. I can't believe it.
I'm excited. I'm thrilled.
I see what you did there, Mr. Vanderton. You stop it with your wordplay. This episode's seen by 3.1 million viewers. Otherwise, simply put, 23.1 million viewers. And it's a nearly 1 million viewership increase from last week. Our Hulu synopsis: Carl pushes a reluctant Eddie to try out for the high school basketball team. And then, of course, meanwhile, Auntie Rachel experiments with gourmet recipes. And what I noticed reading through the synopsis, Andrew, we had 2 Rachel episodes in a row. Now we're getting 2 Eddie episodes in a row. And even in this second Eddie episode in a row, it's like, oh, we have a Rachel-centered B story. So I don't know. I think around this time, maybe the writers were picking up on something with Rachel and Eddie.
I think they were. I think they were picking up on something with the two of them. And then also, this kind of touches back to Carl's pushiness. We're starting to see how the family's like molding themselves to help Carl feel a little bit better. Like Rachel's excited to see a new guy. She wants to flirt. Eddie's going to push himself to get into basketball. And it's like, oh, are we catering to Carl's misogyny right now?
Maybe. As we stated in the episode 5 recap, Carl clearly did not learn his lesson. He pressured Eddie to get good grades. That didn't work out. Carl said, okay, I'll stop being pushy. And then he becomes pushy to get Eddie to live out his father's dream of being a basketball star. But you know what? What I will say is that I love that the show doesn't lean into the stereotype that literally all Black guys love basketball. I like the fact that with Carl's, you're like, oh my God, Eddie, come on, play basketball. Eddie's just like, meh, I don't really care about it. Like, I just want to be with girls. I want to go to the mall. Like, I liked that sense of it.
Yes. I love the fact that there's still malls in their universe at this point in time. And that's a beautiful thing. But I also love that Eddie was like, that's not my tea. I want to go do something else. And there's nothing wrong with that. So I do like seeing that opposite that we were inundated with when it came to sitcoms of Black people being athletes or more specifically basketball players.
So we go into our cold open. We are in the kitchen. While sitting at the kitchen table doing homework, Laura thanks Mama Winslow as Mama walks away. Assumingly, Mama helped Laura out with her homework. We zoom into Rachel sitting on the countertop as she picks up Richie from his baby seat near the kitchen table. Rachel is doing baby talk to Richie, talking about how she's proud of her little fat chipmunk cheeks because he make all good just like a big boy. And if you look at Rachel's facial expression, Andrew, I mean, he's not really enjoying this baby talk. And I'm guessing Rachel was implying that Richie went potty on himself like a good boy, which, is that a good boy thing to do, is to go wee-wee and poo-poo on yourself?
I'm trying to figure that one out, too, because I rewatched that a couple of times, and I'm like, what is she rewarding in the baby talk? The fact that he peed himself? Or the fact that he's just a cute baby? I can't figure it out.
Yeah, like if Richie was 75 and wearing Depends, sure, yay! The diaper is used to put all your shit in. You did it, old man! But as a baby, you're supposed to kind of... Well, I mean, Richie's wearing a diaper like an old man would, so there's that. But it's a weird thing. Like, yes, do the business in the diaper, baby, but maybe the parents should be like, yes, you did it. Because maybe that, in my mind at least, makes the baby think along the way, oh, I'll just be wearing a diaper and going shit on myself for the rest of my life.
I'm sorry.
I'm overthinking again, aren't I?
I don't know if you're overthinking it, but now I'm imagining, like, okay, as opposed to celebrating the fact that Richie went to the bathroom, what if Rachel was like, shame on you for you?
I put this $56 Huggies diaper on you specifically so you could pee and poo, but shame, you're not supposed to do that. Like, Rachel is doing some weird, fucked up reverse psychology on a baby who doesn't even know what reverse psychology means.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that baby doesn't even know what light is at this point in time in its life. But it's just kind of like, oh, well, I did something and now she's cheering. And so baby Richie's happy, but then he's also looking at her like, why are you rewarding this behavior? So I feel like baby Richie was analyzing a lot of things in that scene.
He's thinking ahead, man. He's a smart baby. And you know what? I think Richie, as he grows up, stays longer on the show than Rachel. So maybe that's why, because he has brains where his mama might not.
Was Richie the mastermind the whole time?
Yeah, I thought it was Urkel the whole time, but nope, it is goddamn Richie Crawford. All right, we move on. Laura looks disgustingly at Rachel's baby talk. Rachel gets up with Richie and tells him, let's get his little fat legs up the stairs so he can say goodnight to everybody. Rachel waves Richie's hand to Mama Winslow and Harriet for a nighty-night, and we hear all three women making baby talk at the same time. And in this moment, I'm thinking, Andrew, like Richie, he has this look on his face like, just make this stop.
I've always wondered, and I feel like baby Richie is the manifestation of it. When people talk and baby talk to babies, are they like, what is wrong with you? Like, I just feel like the baby is like judging us.
I hate baby talk. I hate dog talk. I hate all of that. There's a lot of people in my life, my wife, family members who will succumb to that. And I don't know. In my mind, I'm just like, you sound kind of ridiculous. And even though like the babies and the dogs don't know, like, it just still feels like you're talking down and condescendingly to them. Like, it makes it seem like you're the dumbest person alive.
It does. I mean, when my nephew was 2, I sat down and talked to him about nuclear fusion, and it was a great conversation. He didn't respond, but I'm not about to do the Goo Goo Gagas. I just can't.
Yeah. Nephew, nuclear fusion is this, not, nuclear fusion. Yay. Like, imagine talking nuclear fusion and baby talk. I mean, that is just a ridiculous concept in itself. No, not even to mind that it's condescending.
Yes. John, I think you just created a new genre of things that are going to get posted on the internet now. Baby talking very scientific things.
Oh, yeah. And I also had a thing about Rachel commenting on Richie's fatness. Again, maybe I'm just like overthinking into this, but I'm just like, Rachel, you're setting him up for obesity when he grows up.
There is a lot of body non-positivity in this show. And unfortunately, it's the baby and Carl who get the brunt of it.
Yeah, Carl was one thing, but with Richie, it's like, oh, Rachel, just tell him like, oh, your little cute legs, little fat legs. Come on now.
Chubby babies are super cute. So I'm like, you're a little chubby baby, but I mean it as like out of love. But just like, oh, you got fat legs. Like that kind of cuts deep.
I'm thinking back to pictures of my younger brother as a chubby baby. I have to agree with you. Yeah, there's just something about, even though he looks terribly frightened when we take pictures of him as a chubby baby, it's like, oh my God. And then now him being like a, I don't know, 5'11", 6'1" skinny person, it's like, yeah, get away from me, tall, skinny person. Get away.
Right. You lost your chubby. Get out of here.
Laura says she can't believe it. You bring a baby into the room and all of a sudden adults start talking like Roger Rabbit, which I don't find to be a great comparison to baby talk. Maybe I'm wrong on this, Andrew. I mean, I know that Laura was referencing the 1988 half live action, half animated comedy fantasy movie, Who Killed Roger Rabbit, which honestly I saw for the first time back in science class in high school. Wasn't a fan of it. I don't know if you've ever watched it.
I've seen it about 10 times. It's not good. Crucify me if you have to. I am not a fan of Who Killed Roger Rabbit.
So my question to you then is, if you didn't like it, why did you sit through it 10 times?
When you have annoying people in your life who love that movie, sometimes you make a sacrifice. And it's just like, okay, watch it again. And I love you guys who love to love it. It is not for me. Before cell phones, when I watched it, I would just open a comic book and just like flip through it and boom. But my brother, Who Killed Roger Rabbit, you could say that is comedic gold to him. He loves it.
The sacrifices we all make for those we love, Andrew.
Right. And I don't regret it because he still loves that movie to this day. And it's a great time for him.
Bloodshed on my chest because I watched Roger Rabbit 10 times reluctantly.
But again, thinking of Roger Rabbit now, Laura's comparison doesn't make sense because I don't remember baby talk happening in that movie at all.
All righty, we go to the opening credit sequence where, of course, original Judy / Shadow Judy is still there. All right, we go to scene 1. Harriet is arranging flowers in the kitchen. Enter Carl from the exterior back with his cop uniform, assumingly coming home from work. He greets Harriet with a little, hey, sugar. Harriet asks Carl how was his day. Carl says it was exhausting, and he doesn't even know if he has the strength to kiss Harriet hello. Carl is limping during this line, Andrew, and I don't think there is full awareness that if you're a police officer coming home from work limping, maybe Carl had a bad day because he got shot. I don't know.
Something had to happen. You had to jump out of that burning building or something. Because that was my question. I'm like, why is he limping? What happened to him at work today?
Harriet, how was your day? Oh, Carl, boring. I just had to operate an elevator. How was your day, honey? Oh, no big deal. I just got shot by 5 pimps around the corner.
I just got some hot lead in me.
Yeah, exactly. Harriet tells Carl it's his loss for missing out on a kiss. Carl gives a wide-mouthed smile and says he'll push himself. And then they kiss a lot better here than at the end of the last episode. I think they're getting better with the kissing.
This was the first episode where their kiss was believable, that they actually liked each other.
There you go. And for the sake of family friendliness, let's just keep it at kissing. I don't want any scenes where it's like, ooh, Harriet in a negligee and Carl in some kind of sexy dad pajama thing. I don't know if there's a sexy pajama thing for a dad.
Carl's sexy would be like a onesie that's made out of silk with the buttons in the back for the butt flap. And Harriet, her negligee would have shoulder pads.
Yeah. And then Carl's holding a jelly donut, putting his finger through it.
Not the jelly donut.
Yeah, putting his finger through the hole of the jelly donut.
Like, hey, come get some of this jelly.
Yeah, well, yeah. Oh, yes, that stomach of his, the living embodiment of jelly. All right, where are we right now? Oh, Harriet then gives a stack of papers to Carl and asks him to look at all these school handouts she found in Eddie's trash can. Uh-oh, like we have a parent that doesn't completely trust their child and is snooping through their things. Privacy and trust is an important thing in parenting.
It is. And you're snooping through his garbage. It's not like you went through his drawers. You went to the garbage. You were looking for something.
Harriet says, no wonder they never know what's going on at school. And this is also confusing because you'd think that with all the theatrical report card ritual thing that Carl did in the last episode, Him and Harriet would kind of know what's going on in school.
Yeah, you would think that they would know. Of all things, how do you not know what's happening at your child's school?
Carl has a sassy attitude that literally matches Harriet as he goes through the trash papers. PTA, science fair. And then Carl has a big look of shock on his face. Oh no, he cannot believe this. Harriet tells Carl she knew he'd be upset about the school bake sale, which is a fact joke I did not see coming. That kind of hit me as a surprise. And I think those are the best kind of fact jokes, the ones where you don't see it coming. And it kind of turns out to be like a subtle, clever thing.
It felt like a very natural joke. Like, I'm pretty sure I'm wrong, but it's one of those ones where it feels like the actor made up that joke right on the spot because it fits so smoothly and it wasn't clunky like some of the other fat jokes that they've made.
Carl tells Harriet he's talking about the basketball tryouts. It's just 3 weeks away, and Edward has not started training right away. I'm wondering, does Eddie even want to play basketball?
Right. Maybe he doesn't want to play. And I don't even know what training for basketball consists of, but it doesn't sound fun.
A ball, a hoop, and just putting it in the hoop over and over again. Wow. What great training.
Exactly. But I am no sports buff, so I digress on that.
You know what? I think simple things like that we could have a good handle on, Andrew. I'm just like you. I don't really know too much into the intricacies of sports. But if you tell me, hey, take this ball and put it through this net, I'd be like, all right, I can do that.
Yeah, I can do that. This piece of rubber's got to go through the net. Let's do it.
Harriet says 3 weeks sounds like plenty of time. Carl says not if you want to be a star. Harriet tells Carl he's acting like it's his sacred fatherly duty to prepare Eddie for basketball. And I'm now thinking back to that 1951 basketball sweater that Carl wore in...
Was that episode 3?
Or no, maybe it was episode 2 when Harriet came back from the movies after telling Mr. Seeger off.
It was.
Yeah, so now we're better understanding that Carl is just obsessed with basketball, which, you know what, is kind of surprising because when you first meet Carl, you think, oh, he's just like a goofy dad that is not into the hip things. But it's like he has this nice balance of goofy dad, but also like he's into this thing that a lot of young men are into. So it's, it's interesting. The layers of Carl Winslow.
He's got some layers. He's an onion. He's a lasagna, actually, of just layers of things. And I'm excited to keep learning more. But then I also want to know, like, hey, give us a little backstory. Why is he so obsessed with basketball?
Yeah, you sexy lasagna man. His nickname in the bedroom should be Lick Me Lasagna.
Oh, I like that. I was going to go with Saucy.
That too. I love that. Carl tells Harriet that if Eddie doesn't make the basketball team, it'll ruin his self-esteem and his life. Okay. And he might end up alone with no wife and kids, eating cold soup out of a can, and all because he didn't make the team. Okay. Carl definitely not being a drama queen at that moment.
Oh, he was just giving us the base layer of this is what happens when you don't play sports.
Yeah. If you don't become physically active in some kind of sport, then you'll be homeless. People will shoot at you. That's it. Life is over.
Right. You'll never have a wife, which Basketball Wives is a show and none of them are married. So I don't know how true that is, Carl.
Harriet asks Carl if this crazy talk just comes to him or does he have a manual, which, gave me a chuckle. Haha, nice comeback, Harriet. Enter Eddie from exterior back, greeting his parents with a tucked-in red-orangish button-down under another fashion statement vest. But the pattern on this one, Andrew, it kind of reminded me of the kind of ties that my dad wore to church back in the day. It just, I don't know, it just had this like, oh yeah, there's a Haitian man trying to dress up for church.
Oh, I need to know more now, these patterns.
90s and 2000s patterns, you look back on them now and you'll kind of wonder, that was a choice.
Yeah, it's going to be like, that was a choice. But you know what? The kids are bringing it back. They are bringing back these fashions, or they just dress really ugly, but they're bringing back fashions.
Carl dramatically pounds his hand on the paper as he comes over to Eddie and asks him if he knew that basketball tryouts were in 3 weeks. Eddie looks through the papers cluelessly and says, yeah, he thinks he saw a handout about that somewhere. Question, handing out flyers of school events were more common than just putting them on a bulletin board in the hallway? Is that how your schooling situation worked?
Yeah, in my school, that's how it was, where you'd have like a bulletin board or something, but then every teacher gave you the same copy of what was on the bulletin board to take home with you. And I remember having tons of pamphlets coming home from school.
Interesting. Pamphlets. Oh, God. You say pamphlets and it reminds me of like, were you a Jehovah's Witness?
No, I wasn't, but I love pamphlets. That's better than money to me.
I got to get the negative stigma of pamphlets out of my head. You tell me pamphlets and I'm like, oh my God, you're like a Mormon that's going to convert me into some kind of child bride culty thing. Here's a pamphlet for my illegal thing.
John, I would like to share with you the love of Jesus Christ.
Yeah, that's where it starts. And then all of a sudden I'm like fucking, I don't know, putting pigs in a basket and calling them my sexy matador. I don't know. Whatever weird things that cult people do.
Okay, I want to join this cult. I want to join this.
Yeah. All right, Carl is flabbergasted and tells Eddie he's got to get ready because he's in high school now, and that means a lot tougher competition than last year. Carl urges Eddie to go upstairs and put on his sweats because he's going to take him to the school to work him out. Eddie is like, school? Dad, I just came from school. Carl tells Eddie in a pompous royal way that his father has spoken. Eddie says fine in a not so good mood and goes upstairs to change. Carl turns to Harriet with a smile and says, what do you know? It worked.
I don't understand how Carl has such access to just be like, we're going to the school now. I don't care. And we're going to go play basketball. And he doesn't pick up on the fact that, hey, your child is saying he doesn't want to do this.
King Winslow has spoken. Ugh. Well, you know what they say about monarchies?
They don't.
They're horrible and they don't make sense. That's just my opinion.
I like it.
I was trying to make like a British royal family connection there, and obviously it failed.
You established it. You did.
Scene 2. Carl excitingly comes into the kitchen where we also see Harriet and Mama Winslow, and Carl has sweats on and announces with the sound of his necklace whistle that there's great news. Eddie has just completed his first basketball tryout, and he is already looking sharp. Mama Winslow, who I just realized, oh, hey, she's back. We didn't see her last episode, but now she is back in full force, ready to flirt with Will the Thrill Morgan soon.
Yeah, she had a party with the Bushes, I think, and then she came back.
Yeah. Excuse me while I go to the White House and drink some 40s.
Out of paper bag.
Mama Winslow, she's a part of the Crips. Which, you know, oddly enough, the Bushes would not endorse, but for Mama Winslow, they'll make an exception. I don't know. Anyway, Mama Winslow gives the perfect deadpan sarcastic response. Well, that's the highlight of my day. Harriet playfully asks where Air Winslow is, and Carl says he'll be just a minute because he made him dribble home from behind the car. Carl is forcing your son towards basketball worth him getting hit by a car? You tell me.
That is insane to me. I can't imagine how sore Eddie's hand would be. And then what happens if the ball bounces and goes into traffic? You just killed your son over basketball.
Exactly. The car should go on fire like it did like a couple episodes ago. You walk home with Eddie yourself, Carl.
Carl, get in the game here.
Harriet asks Carl if there's any chance he's pushing Eddie too hard. Carl says, of course not. He's just helping Eddie take advantage of his talents. Carl says Eddie was blessed with height, and he wasn't, as he chews on an apple. And I can see another fact joke coming from Harriet, but no, actually it's from Laura at the kitchen table. She says, that's okay, Dad. You've got width.
Leave it to Laura.
You don't hear too many with related fact jokes.
You don't. And Laura, she came in with a little zinger. She is that one to hit you with that.
Carl sarcastically thanks Laura for the joke, and in comes Eddie to the kitchen from the living room, and he's dribbling a basketball with barely any enthusiasm. Harriet immediately reminds me of my mom when she tells Eddie he knows her rule about no ball bouncing in the house. Carl has the balls to tell Harriet there is a new rule in effect. Edward has to eat, sleep, and live with that basketball. Carl says Eddie is going to even give his basketball a name like the pros do. Carl asks Eddie if he's thought of a name yet. Eddie tells his dad he doesn't want to name his basketball because that's just stupid. I have to kind of agree with Carl on this one. If you have an intimate enough relationship with an inanimate object, yes, you tend to call your inanimate object a name. You may call your car Sally. You may call your basketball Frederick. Do you have an inanimate object in your premises, Andrew, that you give a name?
Just my car. And my car is named Janet because the first song I listened to when I bought the car was a Janet Jackson song.
Now, is this the same Kia that got you into a lot of stressful trouble?
Yeah. On Christmas, they tried to steal my car again.
God damn it. You know why? Because you called your fucking car Janet, which is basically another version of Karen.
Mm-hmm. And they were just like, fuck this car. And I was like, oh, I'm sorry. I don't want you guys to like break my car, but stop breaking my car.
So what ended up happening? They tried to steal your car. It didn't work out. Like, did you catch them in the moment?
Nope. I came out Christmas Day and it had to happen after about 2 a.m. in the morning because I was going to go see The Color Purple. And so I come out, I walk out my front door, my car is parked directly in front of my apartment. I see the broken window, I see all the glass on the ground. And I was just like, you know what? I'm not dealing with this today. And I got in my friend's car and we drove to the movies and I just left my car there. And then when we came back from the movies, I noticed that they destroyed the lock on my driver's side door. So they tried to rip open the driver's side door and break the lock to get in, which lets me know they're not smart. And then after that, they broke the brand new window that I just put in there 4 weeks ago.
And this is still related to that stupid TikTok challenge where you're able to like access a Kia with like a USB drive, right?
Yeah, it's one of those ones. You know, it's funny. While I was doing DoorDash today, somebody stole a Hyundai and they were driving behind me after they stole it. And I knew they stole it because the windows were broken and they were driving like a maniac.
Rochester, New York. What a beautiful place, right?
It's like where dreams are made and cars are stolen. We just need that as a big sign here.
Come for our jazz festival and our car thefts.
With the garbage plate.
All right, Carl gives Eddie a stern order, which I found funny. Edward, name your basketball. And Carl gives that same pompous royal delivery of, your father has spoken. Eddie says okay and pleasantly calls his basketball Fred, which, look at that. I called my, did I call my penis Frederick or did I call something else Frederick? What did I call it? I called it, I gave an example. I totally forgot. My car Frederick. Yeah, I think I called my car Frederick.
Yeah, I was like, I don't recall us talking about your penis.
No, I was talking about myself. Like I myself called my penis Frederick. Yeah. No. That's too elegant for my penis. I think my penis is more of an Ashley.
Ashley.
Because there are some guys named Ashley, so I feel like an Ashley is like a little bit more toned down.
It works. I like it. I don't know if I've ever met a guy named Ashley, but I would be very interested to meet a man named Ashley because I feel like you'd just be a fun time.
Ash from Pokemon. His whole name is Ashley.
Oh, look at that. That's why Pikachu don't like him.
Exactly. Carl has a look for a moment of really, Fred, but then enthusiastically agrees with the name and tells Eddie to go upstairs and change. And after he's done with his homework and dinner, him, Eddie, and Fred can watch some highlight videos, which clearly indicates Carl has gone off the deep end. You can name your basketball. Once you get to the moment where you think your basketball has eyes and can watch videos with you, go to the hospital.
Yeah, we need to talk to somebody about that.
Yeah, especially from episode 5. I mean, therapy, long overdue.
This family would benefit.
Eddie suggests to Carl that he can watch highlight videos with Fred while Eddie plays Nintendo. Carl does not like that idea. Eddie concedes and is about to go upstairs with slumped shoulders before Carl stops him and asks if that's the way we take Fred for a walk while looking intensely at the basketball. Eddie apologizes and starts to dribble the ball as he goes upstairs. Mama Winslow gives another brilliant deadpan look and line. This is going to be a long season.
She knows. Harriet knows. And I'm waiting for her to speak up to say, Carl, chill.
I'm sure it will come at some point in the episode. I mean, it always... Harriet is the voice of reason. I think later on in this episode, she's the voice of reason when Carl thinks that it's a brilliant idea to build a shower from scratch for Mama Winslow. I mean, Harriet is, with her cocked head sass, is like, Carl, you stop it now. You're up in space. Get back down to planet Earth.
And that's what I like about her. She's like, look, come back to reality. You are out there today.
And then we get to scene 3. Carl enthusiastically telling Eddie to keep dribbling the basketball as they enter the kitchen with Carl's slightly different sweats outfit and Eddie having a normal gray short sleeve t-shirt under a dark red shirt that could pass for a school basketball shirt. And either the sleeves are rolled up or they were cut off.
I think they were cut off. If I'm just thinking of how it looked, I think they were cut off. It's an interesting outfit. I would definitely say it's a sports player outfit because I remember in school, the kids who play basketball and were in sports dressed very strangely.
Also, Carl is really trying to challenge Harriet's no bouncing basketball in the house rule. Bad idea.
Mm-hmm. Harry's not going to stand for that.
You be careful, Carl, or else she's not going to make you any more milkshakes.
No more, Carl. No more.
All right. Carl then tells Eddie that it's rest period, and Eddie sits down at the kitchen table and he's exhausted. Eddie tells his dad it's 5 o'clock in the morning. Jesus, Carl, really? Is what I was saying to myself. Basketball practice at 5 o'clock in the morning. It's like the Black Rocky right now. What the hell's going on here?
I agree, 100% agree. That's like intensity on another level. What are you going to do at 5 a.m. in the morning for basketball?
How about 5 p.m.? How about after school hours? You heard of that?
Right.
Carl says he knows the time, and he let Eddie sack out an extra half hour because it's Saturday. What does sack out mean?
I think that's like sleeping in. I think something completely different when someone's like, oh, I'm sack out. I'm like, okay, this is for families. What are we doing?
I mean, do you want some tissue? Like, what? Excuse me. Why do I need to know this information? I mean, you have the right to sack out, but like, maybe maybe censor yourself.
Right. I'm not going to shame you. You just go do your thing. But we didn't need to know that.
And waking up that early on a Saturday when you're a teenager, oh yeah, poor Eddie. I'm right in his shoes. If I'm a teenager, let me sleep until 9 or 10ish in the morning on Saturday. If not, then you're going to get a really grumpier than usual teenager.
Mm-hmm. I would have been so angry just to be angry because I was up that early on a Saturday.
Carl tells Eddie the most important meal of the day is breakfast as he takes eggs out of the fridge and cracks them into a bowl. I think we're getting almost a Rocky reference along the way. Harriet, with her bright blue robe, comes into the kitchen and asks what's going on as if she was awoken from her beauty sleep. Carl gives a good morning, sugar. They love to call each other sugar. I like that.
They do. It's a cute term for them.
And it's sort of a foreshadowing because who plays Sugar Mama on The Proud Family? Jo Marie Payton.
Mm-hmm. They knew what was happening.
Young Sugar Mama blossoming. All right, so Carl gives a good morning sugar to Harriet and tells her he didn't have to get up to see him and Eddie off. Oh, I thought Eddie and Carl were just coming back from basketball practice is what I wrote down. But they're on the way to practice despite coming in from the living room where it implied they came from that front door of the house in the living room. Also, why in the heck is Carl serving Eddie breakfast shortly before practice? Unless they're commuting 2 hours to wherever they're practicing, Eddie, I think, is going to vomit.
Yeah. And they're going as hard as Carl wants to go. Eddie is going to vomit up that food as soon as he's done. Harriet
sarcastically tells Carl she always gets up this early in the morning to milk the cows. So I think this might be our second or third cow reference because you have this and Laura's ran over a cow on the highway joke. And wow, so many cow jokes for a sitcom set in suburban Chicago. Again, I don't think exactly the land of cows.
We never know. They might have like the suburban cow, not suburban, the urban cow.
The urban cow. I like that. Ooh, I need to get my hair done. Ooh.
You don't get milk from this cow. You know, it's going to give you something else, but I don't know what that's going to be.
Oh, God. Moo. Where's my baby daddy? Moo. We see Eddie sleeping on his basketball on the kitchen table. Harriet tells Carl this is ridiculous and he has to stop working Eddie so hard. Carl tells Harriet she's talking nonsense and is only thinking about Eddie's future. Carl says he would never do anything to hurt Eddie, and then he serves Eddie a glass of egg yolk, Rocky Balboa style. Eddie looks at the glass like, oh my God, am I really drinking that? Now, Andrew, I don't know how you vegans do it. Have you ever had a glass of raw egg yolk? Would that go against your vegan doctrine?
That would go against me being vegan, but I have had raw egg in a drink before. I had it in a Long Island iced tea. Sometimes they'll put like egg whites in it, and I don't know what it does. I didn't notice a difference at all. It wasn't even slimy, so I can imagine maybe drinking an egg can't be that bad.
Maybe you need to give me some motivation to drink an egg and go run 53 miles one morning.
I will not endorse that for you, John. That sounds very unhealthy.
Look, man, I weighed myself at my wife's Nana's house for Christmas once again. I gained, I think, 4 or 5 pounds since Thanksgiving when I last weighed myself. So maybe I could use that Rocky Balboa exercise routine.
Just scramble the eggs and put them in a glass. Don't eat them raw. I don't want you to get salmonella.
Yeah, I think it's salmonella, isn't it? Isn't it pronounced salmonella?
It probably is.
Okay, because when you say salmonella, I'm thinking, oh yeah, I'm gonna have some cooked salmon with some rice and beans. I don't think I want to have cooked disease.
This is a deep cut for Andrew. I thought salmonella came from salmon, and it was just like, oh, somebody put raw fish on top of something like Cheerios, and that's why they're recalling Cheerios.
Damn, that is a deep cut.
I had no clue until I was like, oh, it's just bacteria. It's not from fish.
All right, Harriet takes the glass away and tells Carl Eddie is not eating raw eggs. Rachel comes downstairs tired and also in a robe because apparently just wearing pajamas isn't enough for this family. This is a very robe family. I mean, my parents had a robe here and there back in the day, but everybody is wearing robes like it's Christmas morning every single day. It's just it's so cute to see.
I mean, you can't be a good robe, like a good, flowy, comfortable robe. I would wear it 24/7.
Yeah, maybe they sleep naked underneath. That could be, because some people do that. Maybe the house is warm enough and they're like, yeah, I want to sleep naked. And then they just put the robe over it, come downstairs. Where's my raw eggs, bitches?
I think you're onto something, because we also have to think Carl has used this regal voice a few times in this episode. So it would not be a far stretch to think that they all sleep royally with robes.
Probably. Rachel asks if somebody is sick. Harriet says, yes, it's Carl because he's lost his mind. Harriet gives Rachel the glass of raw eggs and tells her to cook these. Rachel looks at the glass dumbfoundingly and says, eggs, as she looks through a cookbook on how to make eggs. And I'm going to give Rachel my mom's scrambled egg recipe right now. Seasoned salt, black pepper, cheese, boom. No cookbook required. Now, do you have a family recipe for eggs, Andrew? Anything that you make to make them special?
No, unfortunately. Well, when I would make eggs, I would just like my eggs with a little bit of salt and pepper, and that was it. But my dad and mom are allergic to eggs, so they never ate eggs.
And also, I like how these writers have found a way to do a sort of thread from the A story to the B story. Like, it could have been like, Eddie is not enthused about playing basketball. Hard scene cut to Rachel trying to learn how to cook. But no, it's like this thready thing where, Harriet is taking the cup of raw eggs away from Carl. Harriet gives it to Rachel, and then Rachel has an idea, and then suddenly that just slowly transitions us to another story. So I like that transition. That was brilliant on the writer's part.
It really was. It flowed so smoothly.
Do those brioche buns flow smoothly into one's mouth that Rachel makes? We'll find out at some point.
Questionable.
All right. Harriet tells Carl she's had it with his obsession over Eddie playing basketball, and he's got to stop. Carl is clearly wanting to get his face knocked out, Andrew, when he gives Harriet a look, woman. Did you caught that moment, right?
Mm-hmm. Harriet was ready to put her hands on him.
Harriet gives him that great attitude expression of, excuse me, what did I just hear? Carl lays the law down and says sports is his domain in this family, and he starts to border on sexist when he tells Harriet that she's in charge of homework, manners, and he'll even give her vacations, but sports is his domain. Oh, Carl.
Carl. You are the original Future. That is terrible. I mean, Future, the music artist. He's misogynist, and Carl was just tapping into it.
So is that like, when you say Future is misogynist, is that like just primarily through his music? Is that also his personality outside of his music?
Both of them. I mean, I don't know the man personally, but I've read more than my fair share of things where I'm just like, oh, all of this can't be fake.
Andrew, a great name for a misogyny-ridden future would be Past, because that shit should be in the past.
I like that, John. That was good. That was really good.
Can you imagine the next song, Past, featuring Drake?
Oh my God. Now that's like double misogyny on a record. And I'm not going to lie, I would probably listen because the music would probably still be good.
That's unfortunate, isn't it? Right? It's like, oh God, you guys are so terrible to women and you're preaching violence, but damn it, I'm dancing to it.
Right. You're like, oh, you're so talented. I hate you for being stupid.
Damn you, past. Damn you. You misogynic motherfucker.
With the shaking fist and all. Oh, damn you.
Anyway, Harriet asked Carl if he thinks this way because he's a man, and Harriet follows up with an insult I've never thought she would say. Well, the fact that your face grows hair and your head loses it doesn't prove diddly.
I love that. Don't mess with Harriet. She will eat you up.
Whoever wrote that line, I guess it was Barry Gold. Congratulations, Barry Gold, if you're still alive. That's a great line. I mean, the fact that you could just manage to make a bald joke so cleverly worded. Is it a bald joke?
I'm going to go with it being a bald joke or a balding joke. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, a balding joke. Rachel asks if they have any goat cheese. Carl and Harriet give Rachel a frowny look like, hey, we're in the middle of something here. Harriet asks Rachel what she's doing. Rachel says she's trying to make eggs San Moritz or Moritz. Is it San Moritz? Do you remember how she pronounces it?
She said San Moritz, which I still don't know what that means.
I did look it up on Google. And by the way, Moritz, so it's kind of spelled like Moritz. Like, is that Polish? I don't know if that's like a Polish spelling, but
I think it could be. Don't get me on language. I'm going to go with like Polish, Norway, or like Swedish, something like that.
Yeah. Eggs Saint Marie, according to Google. It automatically gives me a New Orleans recipe. So I guess this is a New Orleans way of making eggs. New Orleans, as some people like to call it. Harriet tells Rachel to just make eggs, throw them in a pan, heat them up until they stop moving. Google implies that a hard-boiled egg may be the kind of egg that stops moving when they're cooked. So that may be what Harriet might be implying. I think the most important point here is that Rachel, if she's making eggs for the first time, try something a lot simpler. I think egg Saint Marie, it's like, that's if you have made eggs for 56 years and you're bored and you want to try something different. If you're trying eggs for the first time, something like a scrambled egg, maybe a hard-boiled egg, like just go 101, Rachel. Don't put a lot of pressure on yourself like Carl does his children. Carl says forget the eggs and him and Eddie will pick something up on the way. Carl tells Eddie to get up because they're losing the day, and I'm guessing it's not even 5:30 in the morning at this point, so not really. Carl instructs Eddie on a 1-2-1-2 jog as they head out the exterior back. Eddie asks Carl if he can ride in the car this time. Carl ignores Eddie and continues with the 1-2-1-2. We go to scene 4. Exterior of school daytime, Saturday. Cut to Eddie exhaustingly practicing basketball in front of a determined Carl in the school gym. Eddie misses a shot and Carl is bummed and tells him he's not pushing himself hard enough. Oh my God, Carl's going to make Eddie like vomit or spew up blood or something like that. It's going to be terrifying.
Yeah, this is like giving me like Tanya Harding, all kinds of Olympic stuff, like just terrible things. And Carl is running his child into the crowd.
I'm almost reminded of that movie Whiplash where I don't know if you know it, but it's basically like the worst college band instructor in the world who puts pressure on one of his students who really wants to like gain his approval. And this kid, I mean, you would think playing the drums would be the most miserable thing ever because you see him like he's trying to get this drum routine. And he's literally bleeding from his fingers. Just he's putting all these stitches on his fingers, bleeding, sweating, bleeding. And it's like, whoa, okay, calm down. It's just drums.
It's just drums. And we have to talk about the trauma that's been caused to this person. I have seen the movie and I was scared. I was like, this is not okay.
It's a lot. It's a good movie, but it's a lot. Oh, and also I was wondering, like, what school randomly allows a father and son to practice basketball there that early on a Saturday morning?
That is what I was trying to figure out. I'm like, how do they keep getting back into the school and nobody has asked them, like, hey, are you supposed to be here? Like, it's Saturday at 5 a.m. and you can go into the school just willy-nilly.
Yeah, Carl has that special pressure dad key that he gets to, use at the school at any time. The special pressure basketball dad key, the 24/7 access.
Oh, I see.
Eddie tells his dad he needs a rest, and Carl is flabbergasted by this rest request. He tells Eddie he had a water break just an hour ago. Eddie tells Carl he made him run in place while drinking. Carl concedes and suggests trying something easy like defensive skills. Eddie insists to his dad that he needs to catch his his breath. Carl tells Eddie while he's slacking off, some other kid is busting his tail to be better than him. Eddie says it's Saturday and he'd like to go to the mall. Understandable. Carl says he's not unreasonable and assures Eddie he can do whatever he wants from noon until 2, and then it's right back to the court till supper time.
Jeez.
This motherfucker is just child laboring the fuck out of Eddie right now.
Full on Nabisco.
Wait, full on Nabisco? Like the cookies? What?
Mm-hmm. They had child labor things happening a while ago.
I can't eat their cookies anymore. Thanks, Andrew.
Well, I think they stopped now. This was like decades ago, but I think they stopped now.
God, every time I eat a cookie, now I'm gonna like have child labor sweat in my tongue. I don't want that.
I thought it was a very terrible joke.
Go ahead. I mean, we've already told bad jokes enough as it is, so go ahead.
The sadness and sorrow makes the cookies taste better.
That's what they tell the kids who make the iPhones, too. Illegally work yourselves to death instead of having a childhood, and you're making some adult in San Francisco happy with the newest iPhone.
Your lungs. We can talk about those later. But that iPhone, we need that today.
All right, Eddie tells his dad that is it. He quits. Carl is in denial and tells Eddie he can't just knock off with all the work they have to do. Eddie clarifies he's not quitting the workout. He's quitting basketball for good. Eddie exits the gym. Carl calls after Eddie and uses the "your father has spoken" line in a more weak, desperate way this time. And then we go to scene 5. In the Winslow kitchen, Rachel is in full baking mode with a flour-stained apron, an oven mitten, and what looks like a kitchen rag wrapped around her head. Love it.
Rachel is cooking Chef Ramsay style.
Chef Rachel Ramsay to you.
Ooh, Chef Rachel Ramsay. I like that.
So she has like a group of swirly bread loaf-looking muffins out of the oven. She takes them out. And she says the other morning got her all fired up about gourmet cooking again. So she looks at a glass of raw eggs and says to herself, you know what? I need to be fucking Ramsay and just go all elegant cooking on your ass.
There's something about the eggs in that glass. It triggered her. She's just like, I'm ready. I can do this. I scrambled an egg so I can bake bread.
Yeah. I mean, I know eggs are the foundation ingredient for a lot of things, but damn, Rachel, you just think way ahead. I like that. And I don't know, I just feel like the way she's doing it, I mean, maybe she has a background as a gourmet cook. Maybe we don't know that's about her so much.
She's got to have something because she says again. So she had to be cooking before or something. Specifically her saying again, which this is why I want more of Rachel's backstory. Give her a spinoff. Did she have a kitchen? Was her husband a chef and maybe she helped her husband out before he passed away? There's all these unanswered questions.
Did she write books either before or after the gourmet cooking experience? Maybe she gourmet cooked first. Maybe she gourmet cooked, loved that. Her husband loved the gourmet cooking. The husband passed away. So maybe Rachel negatively associated the love of gourmet cooking with her husband. Husband's no longer around. Oh my God, I don't enjoy gourmet cooking anymore. Let me try to find something else. Wrote books. There you go.
I see it. John, you cracked it.
The story of Rachel Crawford right there for you.
Boom.
Rachel tells Mama Winslow and Harriet at the countertop that she can't wait for them to taste the brioche. And Harriet and Mama Winslow give an awkward look to each other like, I don't know, should we eat this? Harriet wants to clarify if it's really brioche because they just look like big muffins. Yeah, and I was like, oh, I'm glad I'm not alone because I was like, I don't know too much about brioche, but I think I know the difference between something as elegant sounding as brioche and just big ass muffins.
Yeah, these things look like big muffins. And now I love brioche. It is delicious. And I don't eat it often, but when I do, I can destroy it. And I would not touch those.
Can you define what brioche is for me? Because I'm trying to get a picture of it, and I struggle with it right now.
So all it is a buttery bread. That's it. So imagine a bread loaf. Honestly, any shaped loaf of bread, because you can bake brioche and make it into any shape you like. And it's just very soft and buttery. It's like biting into like a sweet Hawaiian roll. But imagine it being more savory. That's kind of what brioche is.
I don't know if I've ever had a sweet Hawaiian roll. So now you're giving me two things to try out. The sweet Hawaiian roll and the brioche.
I think you'll like it, John. Or imagine a warm, crispy pancake that's super fluffy and soft inside. Brioche is kind of the same way.
Like Carl. Carl is a warm, fluffy, crispy pancake on the inside.
He is. Just sop them up with some syrup.
Rachel insists to Harriet that brioches are much lighter and flakier, and they have this sort of airy texture about them. Mama Winslow gives a non-convinced, Again, I mean, you feature Mama Winslow on the show more. I mean, I know less is more, and I know you don't want to have too much of a good thing, but I don't know, just little moments like these, it's like, oh, you're the best grandma ever.
Right. I want more of those moments, and I want them all just because I'm a greedy Family Matters lover. But they time them so perfectly for her. It's just so perfect every time.
Mama Winslow tells Rachel it seems like she's been working in the kitchen all day. Rachel assures to Mother Winslow that it's been only 4 hours. Mama Winslow says to Harriet, 4 hours for muffins? I could have cooked a Thanksgiving dinner for 16, and that includes catching the bird. And as you know, and you know what? Mama Winslow, in the years before Google, I'm looking at Google, she's accurate. A Thanksgiving turkey for 14 to 16 people would have taken between 4.5 to 4 3/4 hours. I don't know if you have any experience in baking muffins and making any part of Thanksgiving dinner, Andrew, to relate to any of this.
Muffins, yes, because I love muffins. I make my own all the time. I've never spent more than an hour in total from starting the muffins to putting them in my mouth.
Like I've been told that like baking is a lot harder than cooking because, you know, you got to follow everything exactly how it's written down and blah, blah, blah. So I thought that because of that it would take longer. But there are some baked things that take a lot shorter than cooking things.
Yeah. I mean, take cookies. You bake cookies and a chocolate chip cookie, once you've got everything made, 10 to 15 minutes in the oven and that's it.
I love that. Rachel brags about the delicious look of her brioche muffins to Harriet and Mama Winslow. And she says playfully that she hopes they don't float to the ceiling. Rachel puts these things on the pan and they land with a notable hard rock sound. Yeah, I remember laughing at this moment. We see Harriet and Mama Winslow look at those hard rock muffins quietly and awkwardly. Harriet tries to break the tension by sarcastically telling Rachel that a couple of them almost floated away. Rachel says she thinks the muffins will get lighter once they cool. I'm guessing they won't get lighter and they will just be cold, hard rocks instead of hot.
That's what I think. I mean, I've only heard people like, oh, you got to let the cookies sit aside and they crisp up a little bit or something. I'm like, I don't believe any of that crap. If there's no more heat touching these things, they're going to stay the exact same way they are.
Rachel says she bet these taste wonderful and asked Mother Winslow if she would like to try one first. Once again, Mama Winslow, she makes me laugh with this line. Why not? I'll probably go first anyway.
This whole scene is my favorite scene in the entire episode.
She's eating the, as you say, she's eating the scene.
Mm-hmm. She's eating the scene. No crumbs are being left behind. She's really good in this.
Not the muffins. She's a little bit hesitant about the muffins. But as for the entire scene itself, it's like, nah, come on. Give me my handkerchief. Let me get a bite of that.
Mm-hmm. She does so well. This whole scene, this interaction between her, Harriet, and Mama Winslow all works so well. You would really believe that they were two sisters and a mother-in-law in the kitchen about to cook for a holiday.
Mother Winslow tries the muffin and clearly gives Rachel a fake polite smile as she's eating it. Rachel gives an eager smile to Mother Winslow, desperately seeking her opinion. Mother Winslow, in her fake polite smile, says they're everything she expected them to be. Mother Winslow gets up from the countertop chair, and as she's walking away from Rachel's line of vision, we see her struggling to chew through the muffin. Oh, Mama Winslow. Funny, funny dear.
She did her best.
Cut to the front door and living room where Carl comes in calling for Eddie. Carl asks Mama Winslow if she's seen Eddie, and she says no, and tells Carl to hold this disgusting muffin she no longer wants to eat. Harriet comes into the living room, and Carl asks her where Eddie is because he has arranged for Eddie to meet Will the Thrill Morgan. Harriet wants to confirm that Carl is talking about the basketball player. Carl confirms it is indeed Will the Thrill Morgan, the Will the Thrill Morgan, and he's due at the Winslow house any minute. Carl went to Chicago Stadium to get tickets for a Bulls game, and he happened to run into Will and started gloating to him about Eddie, and Will agreed to speak with him, and as Carl takes a bite of Rachel's muffin, he quickly goes, whoa, in shocked disgust. Carl asks who made this muffin. Harriet says Rachel made it. Carl thinks that should be written as a warning on the muffin. I'm confused because Rachel has a history as a gourmet cook, but also she's a terrible baker. Oh, maybe she's a great cook and a terrible baker. I mean, they are different things.
They are different, so that could be the thing. Maybe baking wasn't her strong suit when she was a chef and cooking. And so now she's like, ooh, I'm going to try this new realm of baking, but she just isn't nailing it.
Yeah, I mean, my wife knows how to cook a lot of great things, but you tell her to cook rice, oh, it's the worst thing in the world.
Oh no. Rice is
Yeah,
hard.
it really is not easy to make. So I can understand that.
I get it. I know your struggle. I can relate.
Doorbell rings, and Carl excitingly exclaims that that's Will. Carl answers the door, and in comes both a surprisingly but expectingly tall Will with a dark brown Mr. Rogers sweater. You know, he has a teal green polo underneath and sort of a middle of the road darker brown khakis, maybe they're chinos. I don't know. I just got a really hip Fred Rogers of his day. I don't know what you were thinking about the fashion, if it stood out to you, Andrew.
It did because I liked the brown on him. It just looked, I mean, he's a good looking man. And in this scene, they dressed him perfectly. So I was just like, I kind of like this outfit. I'm feeling it. It does feel very basketball playery. And I say that because I remember seeing Michael Jordan before a game, or maybe it was like something outside of a game. And he had like a brown leather jacket on with pants. And Will's outfit gave me that kind of vibe that I remember seeing Michael Jordan in. So I was like, okay, I can see why he's wearing this.
You know, and it's very different from how basketball players dress nowadays when they're not playing the game. Say they're like coming into the game and all of a sudden it's like, oh, you have like a big t-shirt with like a goofy looking clown on it and some black checkered pants. Like they just go really, really out there with their fashion. And I think Will the Thrill Morgan and Michael Jordan, they just kind of harken back to a day where it's like, just put on some khakis, put on a little leather jacket, make it simple.
Yeah, it's like, we're going to give you very Italian. Just shout out to my one sports thing that I know. That one dude who came is dressed as like a goth person to his like press conference. I love you. I think his name is Jimmy Butler. I might be wrong, but he came dressed like he was goth, and I was like, oh, this is cute. I like it.
Yeah. Yeah, Jimmy Butler of the Miami Heat. I know what picture you're talking about, and it was a choice. I wasn't the biggest fan of the look, but hey, I think that I like the fact that he sets himself apart from pretty much the rest of the NBA, because you would not imagine any other NBA guy sporting a goth look. But here he is. He just went into a press conference with the permy long hair and the little piercing on the lip, and he was rocking it, man. He was owning it.
He was. I love you, just so you know. I've never seen you play, but I love you.
Carl excitingly greets Will and introduces him to Harriet. Carl hints to Harriet that he's sure Will would enjoy some refreshments. Harriet is oblivious to Carl's hint because she's so fixated on Will's handsomeness and asks what refreshments Carl is fixing. Carl, he's your guest. Go get the damn refreshments yourself.
Yes, let me entertain and you go prepare the food.
Misogyny Winslow over here. But Carl persists with that classic forced polite smile of his and motions with his face for her to go to the kitchen to fix up some refreshments. Harriet concedes and says she'll be right back and exits to the kitchen. As Carl invites Will into the living room, Will, in a very sexy, deep, radio announcer-friendly voice. Pick up on that? I mean, I cannot wait to hear Mr. Bolton speak when we get him on in a few weeks.
Yes, he's got that voice just soothes your ears. The world could be burning down. And if he were to just talk, just read the alphabet to me, I'd be like, okay, I can handle this. We're good.
Yeah, what's like a nickname for somebody who has like a good voice like that? Like Golden Pipes, Angel Pipes, or whatever? Oh, no. Is Golden Pipes dirty?
I'm trying to think because I've heard somebody use like the velvet voice, I think is what people would say. Something like that. Now, Golden Pipes, I'm not thinking of singing. I'm just thinking of a very fancy toilet. But now...
Yeah. Oh, look at these pipes. They extravagantly let your pee travel through.
I pee through gold filament.
Yeah. So Will, in his sexy voice, confirms to Carl that they made an agreement for Carl to buy Will's Porsche, and asking price is $45,000, which for 1989 seems pretty pricey to me, because that is $110,000 in 2023. I'm like, oh, God. Oh, man. I mean, I know that there are celebrities with more expensive cars than that nowadays, but I don't even think my car was $45,000 today.
No, I don't think I've ever been in a car that's been over $20,000.
Harriet is in disbelief about Carl buying such an expensive luxury car. Carl is clearly dancing around the commitment he supposedly made to Will. Harriet tells him they need to talk in private. Carl politely tells Will to sit down and make himself at home and insists that he don't eat Rachel's muffin. Or maybe he does want to eat Rachel's muffin. Will, Will has the seat on the center living room couch as Carl and Harriet go to the kitchen. I forgot. Rachel flirts with Will.
She doesn't flirt with him. She misses him because she's in the kitchen.
So she wants him to eat her muffin, but she doesn't know it yet.
She knew. She knows what she wants. Because this part of the scene, this stole the show for me.
Okay, let me clarify again. She knows Will is there. She wants Will to eat her muffin, but she misses him. So therefore, she is denied the chance for Will to eat her muffin.
Yes, she's just stuck with a muffin in the oven.
There you go. And I'm not talking about food. All right, anyway.
Poor Rachel.
I know. She just cannot get some. She just cannot get some. Cut to kitchen where we see Rachel struggle to get those hard-ass muffins out of those muffin pan holes. And once she does, the muffin goes flying to the back door, leading to the porch, and breaks the glass on the window. I mean, I doubt that even the hardest muffin can break glass, but all right, good for the comedy.
It was funny. It sent me. I laughed because I thought that was hilarious.
That's the important part. If you're laughing, all logic goes out the window.
Mm-hmm.
Just like that muffin, fittingly enough. Oh, yeah, okay. All right. Rachel is in terrified shock. Carl and Harriet come into the game. Why are you giving me that? Why are you giving me that look?
What was that sound?
That was my mucus phlegmy thing problem. It was my mucus phlegmy problem becoming a problem again, and I had to try to get it away from the throat.
It worked very well, but it just made me laugh.
Did it sound very stuffy? Did it sound like like
He kind of did?
Your father has spoken? Carl and Harriet come into the kitchen, and Harriet tells Carl that she cannot believe he told Will he would buy his car. Carl says that was the only way he could be sure Will would come over. Harriet asks Carl if he lied to the man. Carl jumps around answering the question and tells Harriet that the most important thing is to get Eddie to play basketball again, and he could not pass up the opportunity. Harriet tells Carl he dribbled one ball too many. Rachel nervously tells Carl and Harriet she'll clean up later, and she exits the kitchen through the swinging door going into the living room. And I'm thinking, I wonder if she'll try to hook up with Will. That would have been a great B story. That would have been a great another episode. We'll talk to Mr. Bolton about that.
It would have been good. He could have been a reoccurring character.
Will shot his shot, right? That's what they say. Is that what the kids say nowadays? I shit my shot, or not shit my shot. I shoot my shot.
And John, you're an amazing person with kid lingo, so I would say, he shit his shot.
So I think the saying is, are you going to shoot your shot? And I think Will could have had the opportunity to shoot his shot with Rachel, but instead, maybe he had bad Thai food and he just shit his shot instead.
She really fumbled the ball because she went into that living room dressed like terrible. She had flour all over her. Her hair was a mess. She just was not presentable.
Rachel, take some responsibility for how you look.
Mm-hmm.
Harriet tells Carl no matter what he says, this whole situation ain't right. Rachel quickly comes back into the kitchen in disbelief that Will the Thrill Morgan is in the living room. Harriet clarifies to Rachel that that Will is here to see Carl. Rachel says she's always wanted to meet Will. Harriet encourages Rachel to say hello to him. Rachel says she can't meet a star looking the way she looks. There you go, Andrew. She insists that she has to fix herself and heads upstairs. Oh, darn it, Rachel. Carl demands to Harriet that she's coming back, right?
Mm-hmm.
All right. The upstairs curse has not cursed Rachel this episode. Thank God.
It's kind of got a little bit of its curse in there, though.
Judy's not even in this episode, is she?
No, we have not seen Judy this entire episode. Where is Judy? It's a Saturday. Where is she?
This is a good question. I think there is a little bit of a trade-off going on. It's like, Mama Winslow doesn't appear in this episode. Judy doesn't appear in that episode. Richie doesn't appear in this episode. Like, supporting characters, they got to kind of fight for their time to party in Family Matters.
I see. He's fighting for the limelight.
Carl demands to Harriet that since she is his wife, she needs to stand behind him on this shady deal with Will. Harriet made me laugh with this attitude-heavy response. Carl, I'll be standing so far behind you, you won't even see me. Cut to the living room where we see Will reading a magazine on the center stage couch. Carl comes in through the swinging kitchen door and with a polite smile apologizes to Will for the wait and explains he and his wife had a difference of opinion about cars because she's holding out for a Rolls Royce. You ever cared about those cars?
Not really. I think they look cute, but nah.
I only care about cars for practical use. You give me a Toyota or a Honda, which I'm told will last me forever. Boom. That's all that matters to me. I don't care if it's doo-doo brown. I don't care if it's banana yellow. Give me a car that works, damn it.
That's it. The only thing I know about Rolls Royces is that they have umbrellas built into the door of the car. And that's the only thing I would want from it is the umbrella.
God, if only you could do that with like walking down the street and you need an umbrella and it's raining outside and you just like physically pull your Rolls Royce with you. Like, I need this car umbrella with me now, right? But you know what? The Rolls Royce comment, I feel like is kind of an insult to Harriet's taste in cars because I did a little research, Andrew. Rolls Royce actually went defunct 2 years prior to this episode's airing.
Oh, really?
Harriet is holding out for a car that doesn't exist. Okay, Carl, that seems very extra misogynic for you. That because she's a woman, she doesn't know what cars are.
Right? What? Oh, Carl.
Mama Winslow enters the living room and asks if Rachel is out of the kitchen yet. Speaking of roles, Will stands up to greet Mama and Carl introduces them to each other. And of course, Mama Winslow proves herself to be cool and says that Will the Thrill Morgan needs no introduction. Will tells Mother Winslow it's nice to meet her, and Mother Winslow says if he really meant that, he'd plant a nice kiss on her cheek. Mama Winslow, you dog.
Very smart, Mama Winslow. Very smart.
Will gives her a kiss, which leads Mama Winslow to chuckle like a love-crazy, blushy schoolyard girl. She says she can't wait to tell all her girlfriends at the Canasta group. And Mama Winslow tries to say more. Like she erupts with like this klutzy, nervous, guffawing laughter as she walks away. I think in the past few episodes, Mama Winslow maybe had like 1 or 2 nuggets. I think the writers are noticing, you know what, Mama Winslow was kind of funny. Let's give her a little bit more stuff. They gave her a little bit more sweet Hawaiian rolls of comedy, if you know what I mean.
They did. They gave her a nice little platter and said, hey, girl, you go out here and you deliver, and we'll see what happens in the next episode.
Did you know what canasta meant?
I still don't know what canasta is, and I've heard a lot of people say that.
According to Google, canasta, a card game in the rummy family of games. What is rummy?
I don't know.
If you ask me if I want some rummy in my Coke, sure, that's great. I know what that means, but a rummy card game? I don't know what the fuck that means.
Ooh, rummy in my tummy. I was just trying to think of that. I don't know what rum is as far as the game. So I'm kind of like, this seems like maybe like, what is that one game that they play that I know I've seen a lot of people play in like retirement homes?
Dominoes.
Yeah, Dominoes. That's actually it. And I'm like, maybe this is kind of along the same lines because I just have heard Canasta, but I've never seen anybody play it.
Yeah, you're bringing me back wonderful memories. I mean, if you want a game that really defines Haitian culture, my family being Haitian, it's Dominoes. You know, my grandparents, when they were alive, like sometimes in the summertime, you'd go to their place and maybe you'd find my grandmother at the table playing with my cousin. Domino! They always have to slam the table down with the dominoes that they're about to put into the game.
I mean, it's like spades. Play spades, you got to slam cards down if you got good cards.
Will asks Carl if he's ready to see his car. Carl nervously says, sure, and tells Will he'd like to take his time going over it. Oh my God, Carl, buying someone's car is a promise that's hard to avoid. I want to have my son share my dream of basketball, so I'm going to buy the luxury car of a professional basketball player to make it happen. This man is a little bit desperate.
Very.
Enter Eddie from the living room front door asking whose Porsche is outside. Carl greets Eddie with the goofiest wide smile that you'll ever seen. Eddie is shocked to see Will. Carl introduces Will to Eddie. Will tells Eddie it's nice to meet him and clarifies that he owns that Porsche, but Carl might buy it. Eddie asks Carl if they're really going to get a Porsche. Carl says, maybe, and tells Will nervously that what really clears his mind before a big decision is basketball and asks Eddie if he wouldn't mind shooting around with a real pro. Eddie says no while looking at Will dreamingly. Carl encourages Eddie to go upstairs and get his basketball, Fred. Will asks if Fred is Eddie's brother. Carl says no, it's his basketball because Eddie named it like the pros supposedly do. Question. that might be supposedly racist. I don't know. Are there a lot of black people named Fred besides Fred Sanford from Sanford and Son?
I only know one other Fred aside from Sanford and Sons, and that was a guy who was on one of the episodes of Making the Band years ago, and his name was Fred. But I can't recall any other black person that I personally know that just goes by Fred. I mean, there's Frederick Douglass, but I know him.
Will asks, where did Eddie get a dumb idea like that? Carl quickly disowns the idea and says he doesn't know, going from nervous chuckling to exaggerated confusion. Will tells Carl he's getting the feeling the car isn't the reason he was asked here. Carl has a series of nervous chuckles and then quickly admits he lied. Carl confesses to Will that Eddie quit playing basketball and he was hoping Will would talk Eddie into playing again. Carl says no pressure, it would just change his whole life. Will seems to find the entire situation amusing and agrees to talk to Eddie. Carl is relieved and thanks Will. Eddie comes down with his basketball and says he's all set, and the three of them will walk out the living room door with Carl ecstatically patting Eddie on the back. Rachel comes downstairs to the living room all dressed up, ready for Will the Thrill Morgan. My God, she is ready for him to eat her muffin, but also pretending she didn't expect him. And Rachel quickly realizes no one is in the living room. She has the hand and hip, Harriet attitude style right there. Rachel says the thrill is gone.
That is why I relate to Rachel so much. I've been in that scenario where you get all cute and the person you got cute for is gone.
And I gotta be honest, as I'm watching these early episodes, I forgot how beautiful Thelma Hopkins was. I'm actually developing a little crush on Thelma Hopkins as Rachel right now. Like, well, not only just as Rachel, but just Thelma herself. I'm like, wow, this is a really beautiful woman.
She is beautiful. She's stunning, and every outfit they put on her looks good.
The scene fades out with music as Rachel depressingly walks up the stairs. We go to scene 6. Back at the school gym, Carl and Will watching Eddie shoot hoops. Carl with a huge smile and Will with a blank face, just observing Eddie. I'm just now noticing Eddie's bright blue and red tracksuit. He was just giving me Trix yogurt flavor vibes in this moment, Andrew.
Ooh, I can see that. He was serving Trix. Trix are for kids. I can see that.
I wonder if Trix Yogurt, the people behind it, were kind of like doing a little secret double entendre thing. Like they knew that when they named it Trix, that it was also a nickname for hoes or prostitutes.
It makes me wonder, or did somebody hear like, oh, the kids are saying the word Trix and let's just name it this. And they had no idea what it meant.
And when Eddie successfully takes a shot, Carl goofingly brags to Will about his son's nice form. Will says Eddie isn't bad. Carl says as good as Eddie is, he could still use some skills from a pro, and asks Will if he could show Eddie his famous first step. I'm noticing Will's old people tennis shoes are ironically inferior to Eddie's Jordans. What's going on, Will? You probably could get those kind of things for free, but you decide to wear the whack tennis shoes.
Maybe they're his lucky shoes.
This is true. Now you're reminding me of like an inspirational sports drama where it's like, oh, my lucky shoes makes my dead father come alive and he is with me as I shoot the ball into the hoop.
Paranormal basketball. I love that.
I mean, but paranormal baseball is basically Field of Dreams if you think about it.
Yeah.
Maybe it is Will's lucky shoes, but otherwise I was thinking, you know what, Will, you're making a lot of money as a basketball player. Get some better shoes, goddammit.
Will, step it up for your cheapskate.
Carl brags that he used to be a fierce defender himself back in his day. Will sarcastically thanks Carl for the warning. Will easily goes around Carl for a show-off layup, and Carl somehow cries in pain, even though he literally did not move when Will made his layup. Reginald knows how to put on that exaggeration. We love that.
It was a good part when he did that.
Will asks Carl if he can talk to Eddie alone. Carl wants to make sure if Will doesn't really need him for anything, and Will insists that just him and Eddie will be fine. Carl acts really weird here, where he nervously chuckles, pretends to say hi to someone off stage, and then tries to get the ball from Will, thinking he won't notice. Clearly, it didn't work when Will maintains his grip on the ball. Carl shakes his hand in pain from the attempted steal and tells Eddie this Will the Thrill Morgan is good. Carl then exits. We go to scene 7, living room. Harriet reading a magazine with a pink button down and jeans. And I think this is probably the most casual that I've seen Harriet in the 6 episodes that we've recapped so far. Bravo. She finally knows how to dress down just a little bit.
Very casual. If you notice, she is matching with the chairs in the living room. She matches with Carl's ugly pink chair and then that wooden chair that has the blue overlay on it.
Again, these things that you notice are fantastic. Do you mind telling Harriet through the TV screen to get rid of that damn pink seat?
Harriet, get rid of it. That thing is hideous. That chair looks like throw up with Pepto Bismol.
What if she only tolerated the pink seat just so it can match with the pink button down?
Maybe she was like, I bought this chair, this upholstery, and it has this shirt that matches it. It has to stay because of that.
Yeah, let's make this a moment, and then we'll gradually get rid of the Pepto Bismol couch.
We'll phase it right on out and get it out of the living room because none of that furniture matches, even at this point.
Shame, shame, shame. Yeah, it's weird. It's like, Harriet, maybe stop dressing so formally for things like vacuuming and cleaning and whatnot and work on making your damn furniture match.
Yes.
Carl is anxiously pacing back and forth behind the couch, and right away I'm wondering why Carl had to go home rather than just wait for Eddie and Will outside in his or Will's car. So the Winslows must live right down the street from Eddie's high school.
They have to, but again, now it's nighttime on a Saturday. How are they still in this school? Where is security?
Yeah. Again, it's that special 24/7 pressure basketball dad access that Carl has. I mean, they'll just let anybody in.
Yeah. This was before
9/11. It has nothing to do with 9/11, but like that's always the thing that people say. Yeah, this was before 9/11.
Yeah, that's what it was. This was before. This was right after Nam. So security was pretty lax.
After Nam and before 9/11, we could just go in schools and shoot hoops without anybody figuring out what the fuck we were doing there on a Saturday.
Right.
Carl excitingly tells Harriet that Will and Eddie have been talking for over an hour, and when you've got a hunch about something and it pays off, you just feel so good. Carl brags to Harriet. Oh, I was like humping my chair there for a moment. I was like, what the fuck?
You're feeling the groove.
It was like a young teenage girl trying to figure out an orgasm for the first time. I was like, what the fuck was going on there? I know that's a terrible association to make, but that's the first thing that came to mind when I was like doing that weird chair rub thing. Okay. Anywho, back to more appropriate family matters. Carl brags to Harriet that he's a great dad, and Harriet tells him to be careful and not pull a muscle from patting himself on the back. Enter Eddie and Will from the living room front door. Carl excitingly asks Eddie and Will if they had fun. Will says yes, they did, and confirms that Eddie is a great kid and a great ball player. Carl gloats and brags that he was the one who coached Eddie, and we see Harriet look at Carl with a blank expression and then roll her eyes. No one can roll her eyes like Harriet.
Her rolling her eyes is like saying the lines. Like her eyes have lines of their own.
Rachel's dinner rolls, not so much. Harriet's eye rolls, serve me a big plate of that. Will says he better be going. Eddie stops him and asks what about the Porsche. Carl tries to charm Will out of their promise and says that he doesn't want a red car because cops are always on the lookout for them. But I'm sure he can get away with that because he's a cop.
Yeah, well, he's a black cop, so he might not be able to get away with that.
Damn it. Black cops matter. Let's remember that, please.
Yes.
Yes. All right. Will agrees and says it was nice meeting everyone and shakes Eddie's hand while wishing him good luck. Wait a minute. Will is just shrugging his shoulders and not caring about the promise Carl made to him. Wow. He really didn't care that much about selling the Porsche. Yeah, Barry Gold. You wrote fantastic other moments, but this one doesn't make sense. If you want to sell your car, that's a big moment. You don't just walk away from that.
Right. You got to be like, hey, we had a promise here, so what's happening?
Eddie refers to Will as Mr. Morgan, just as we refer to him in real life as Mr. Bolton, and says it was nice to meet him. Carl thanks Will as he exits out the living room front door. Carl closes the door and turns around to see Eddie eagerly to ask if him and Will talked about anything in particular. Eddie says they talked mainly about basketball. Carl asks Eddie if Will talked about how much he loved the game and how much it's done for him. Eddie says Will told him basketball was the greatest thing that happened to him. Carl very much loves what Eddie is saying and suggests they get back on the court and pick up practice where they left off. Eddie tells his dad he's still not playing because Will also told him to do what makes him happy. So Eddie has decided he is happy not playing basketball. Good for you, Eddie. Taking ownership of your happiness.
Yes, Eddie is the health MVP here. Will gave us the slight kind of therapy that was needed to start off a healthy conversation. And Eddie decided to make the choice for himself that I'm not doing this.
Will gave appetizer therapy, and Eddie just slid on there with the main dish.
Mm-hmm.
Eddie gives Carl the basketball he's been holding and is about to exit to the kitchen, but then turns around and tells his dad that he was so close to continuing basketball, but then Carl had him talk to Will. Eddie thanks his dad and exits. Carl has the funniest childlike, sad, puppy face look. Brief, sappy background music is oddly placed as this scene fades out. Scene 8, Carl shooting hoops in the school gym at night. Harriet enters watching Carl shoot hoops, and apparently she has after-hours access to the school too. Either that or maybe Carl just stupidly left the door open.
I think he could have left the door open, or Harriet may have a key. I mean, Harriet, she's resourceful, so who knows what she could have gotten made and just been like, oh, I have it ready. Let's do this.
Yeah, she has the wife of the dad who wants to go into the school after hours just in case the dad passes out while playing basketball. The wife needs to rescue him. That's what that backup key is for.
Mm-hmm. Or she broke in using one of those rolls.
You know what? Those Rachel rolls, they're coming in handy. I mean, if you want to break into a house or a school after hours in a gym for some reason, there you go.
She's got us covered.
Carl notices Harriet watching him, and he gives that slightly eye-rolling shrug like, oh, great, here comes this woman wanting to tell me that she told me so. Carl misses the next shot after this moment and looks very bummed. Harriet's got, I believe, a cardigan over her pink button down, and she picks up the basketball after Carl's missed shot. And I want to talk about the lighting in this scene, Andrew. It's dark in this gym, except a very notable spotlight on Carl and Harriet as if they're doing a dramatic two-person show in a Broadway theater. They really want to dramatize this moment here.
The spotlight gave me like they were going to start singing a song at some point. Like I felt like we were like leading up to the big musical number for this episode because it's such specific lighting.
Carl, I told you so.
And the song's gonna be called Way to Go, Carl. And that is the hook. I like it.
You're a dumbass because you're a man. You're a man without a plan. Harriet comes over to Carl and tries to lighten the mood by saying that she would play a little one-on-one, but kicking his butt would only add to his misery. Carl tells Harriet that Eddie had everything going for him and wonders why he would just throw it away. Harriet says maybe Eddie didn't throw it away. Maybe he just put it aside for a little while. Harriet assures to Carl that Eddie does not want to play basketball now, and there's nothing he can do to stop him. Yes. Carl says he wasn't trying to change Eddie. He just wanted to inspire him and implies to Harriet that he could have done a lot with Eddie's talent. Harriet tells Carl that maybe he's been trying to live his own fantasy through Eddie.
That's what he's been doing. He's been living vicariously through Eddie.
Hashtag stage parent.
Mm-hmm.
Carl says maybe he was a little, but when you do well in sports, it can make you feel so great. And he just wanted that for Eddie. Harriet gives Carl a bit of needed honesty. Eddie is a lot happier now than when he was doing those workouts, and the only person who is not happy now is you, Carl. Carl agrees. But is he actually agreeing and will take this advice for further in the future, or is it just going from one ear out the other, that kind of agreeing, where you're trying to listen, but you're not really listening?
I think it's what you just said. He's listening, but not listening because he has his mind dead set on his goal, and everything else to him is just noise.
We go to scene 9. We see Eddie eating a carton of strawberry ice cream straight from the carton at the kitchen table. Automatically, I was thinking about how Harriet probably wouldn't take too kindly to that.
I can't imagine that anybody would. You're just eating out of a carton with the same spoon. That's worse than double dipping.
That's the same thing as like drinking milk straight from the carton or the gallon. It's like, no, you get a damn glass like some normal people.
Right. Don't taint the whole thing with your saliva.
Carl slowly opens the swinging door into the kitchen and watches Eddie. And oh my God, there you go. Carl says exactly what I'm thinking. And, he says that, you better not let your mother catch you eating ice cream straight from the carton. Eddie tells his dad to not worry because he's going to finish it all. If Eddie's stomach reacts to ice cream the way mine does, Andrew, after eating a lot of it, clear the way because a lot of hot and smelly farts are coming.
I can only imagine. I have not had frozen cow juice, but the reaction afterwards, who knows?
Look, I remember visiting you in Rochester, New York, and you ate food that usually wasn't in your diet. And I think you said you had reacted a little bit to that food the next day.
Yeah. The first day it was like, okay, this hurts a little bit. And then on day 4 after that, it was like lava, hot lava.
Yeah, because you're used to a strict vegan diet. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh, let's have a fucking hurricane in my tummy right now.
Oh, yeah. A hurricane, then a volcano exploded.
In the bathroom? A volcano exploded in the bathroom? Is that? Oh, God. Wow.
Yeah.
And also, yeah, you were commenting about the double dipping. Eddie is double dipping that ice cream to the extreme with his spoon, so you may be tasting something you don't want to taste.
Exactly.
You don't double dip the chip. I'm just remembering that Seinfeld moment.
You don't. Double dipping is a cardinal sin. And I hope that everybody understands that you are a terrible person if you double dip.
Carl smiles and enters the kitchen, grabbing a spoon on the countertop to join Eddie's ice cream adventure at the kitchen table. Carl tells Eddie he owes him an apology for pushing him into basketball. Eddie says it's all right and maybe he'll play next year. Carl says that's fair enough, and he probably went a little crazy, probably. And Eddie agrees. Carl tells Eddie that he's always had this dream that Eddie would be a professional basketball player, but that was Carl's dream and not Eddie's. Carl says he shouldn't have forced the dream on Eddie and apologizes to him again. Eddie asks his dad if there's something wrong with him if he doesn't have his own dream yet. Carl says not at all. Eddie will have his own dream someday. Carl asks Eddie what he likes to think about at this very moment. Eddie has a mischievous smile and says girls mostly. I mean, this is like episode 5 repeated, the last scene where Carl and Eddie have that moment. What did we learn today? Son, what do you like? Babes. Like,
they had this beautiful heart to heart, but later on in the show, the same thing happens again with Carl and Eddie.
I'm dumb Eddie, and all I like is girls, and I don't know how to do math.
Mm-hmm.
Carl laughs and says that's normal and asks what else. Eddie says he thinks about movies a lot. Carl gets into that response and tells Eddie maybe he'll become a famous movie director and win the Academy Award. There you go again. If you're projecting aspirations, the dreams onto your son, let him live, let him be a teenager.
Right. Let him figure out his own path.
It kind of gave me that memory of like my parents, like, because I loved acting back in high school. I did a lot of high school theater productions. And I think it was my dad who was just like, oh, look at the next Denzel Washington. Look at the next Will Smith. And in retrospect, I just wish that they would have just like been in the present. Like, okay, yeah, okay. Like I understand you being complimentary and saying that I could be this person someday. But I think there's a difference between saying, yeah, you have the potential to go real far and just outright saying, okay, yeah, you're going to be the next Denzel. Like, I think some parents may not realize what kind of pressure that can put on their kids.
It sets a really high, unattainable expectation. So trust me, I get that.
Take it day by day, see what happens. Eddie steps in to correct his dad and clarifies that he likes to think about taking girls to the movies a lot. Nothing wrong with that, Eddie. Carl laughs and agrees with Eddie, but it reminds him as we hear that sappy sitcom message background music that I thought I would hear earlier, that the most important thing about a dream isn't when you find it, it's once that you do, you never give up on it. The only wonderful thing that Carl has said this entire episode.
Yeah, I think that was one of the most fluid and well thought out statements Carl has made this entire episode. Think of everything he said and done.
Carl, you put one sock on one foot, you put one sock on the other foot, you gave nice wisdom. Good for you. Carl follows up with telling Eddie that whenever he finds that dream, his father will always be there if help is needed. Eddie thanks his dad, and they go in for a weird, manly pat hug. That's not really a hug. You know how it is, the straight father and son kind of hug.
Yeah, it was the dad hug where it's like, okay, are we hugging? What's happening here?
Yeah, it's like a half, like, oh yeah, let's let our feelings up, but also, I'm a man. You know?
Yeah. I'm a man. I got to slap you and pat you as I hug you.
Yeah, but yet slapping guys on the butts in the locker rooms, that's great. That's manly.
I have always thought that was the weirdest thing I would ever see guys do. I'm like, why are you slapping his butt?
Yeah, you're towel slapping asses in the locker rooms, but oh no, let's not talk about our feelings.
Right. I can exert violence on your body, but don't you dare ask me how my day was.
Exactly. Carl tries to warn Eddie about Rachel's bad muffins before he goes in to eat it, but Eddie actually thinks it's good and puts ice cream on top of the muffin. The end. Okay. Yeah, the end. Yeah. the happiest ending in the world is just putting ice cream on a hard-ass muffin. Yay!
It ends so abruptly. This is how we're ending the episode?
Yeah, 22-minute sitcom episodes are always a weird thing because, they have to, really move a story along and try to solve it in 22 minutes. And along the way, I think once they wrap up, they're like, oh shit, wait, how do we end this? Closing thoughts about this episode, Andrew.
We've made a good little dent, and now we've understood who the Winslows are. We're seeing more character development. We're seeing storylines that are kind of getting more fleshed out, and I'm enjoying it. And this episode, because the Rachel integration flowed so smoothly, it just felt far more natural. Even though we did not have Judy for a single scene, which still perplexes me because most of this episode takes place on a Saturday. So you would expect to see Judy at some point because we even got to see Laura for a little bit. But aside from that, chef's kiss. This was a great episode.
A lot better than episode 5 because I know you didn't like our last episode.
I hated episode 5. I hate it.
Judy may have been at a play date at a friend's house. Who knows? But let's hope we will see her next week. To reiterate, we are going to be having Will the Thrill Morgan himself, Mr. Jacques Apollo Bolton. He will be appearing maybe the week following this recap as you're listening to it or some weeks down the line. He will come on. We'll talk to him about his experience. It'll be great. I saw his LinkedIn picture, Andrew. He looks just as good, if not better, than he did 34, 35 years ago. Black don't crack. Love it.
I love it.
Carl, please learn and not put pressure on your children. I mean, 2 episodes in a row is one thing, but if we do with a lot of this for the remainder of the series, then he's going to become surprisingly unlikable. And I don't like that because I like Reginald. I think he's a great comic actor. Our next episode recap, season 1, episode 7, Body Damage. Great funny moments in this one. Original air date is November 10th, 1989. And might I note, Mr. Andrew Vandertunt, we get another unwanted Urkel cold open.
We do. The cold opening for this one, I can't wait to talk about it because it is clunky. Where I was like, oh, this is different. But I'm just going to tell you guys right now, I like this next episode that's coming up, and I like it a whole lot. I was going to say a very lot, but that didn't make sense. I like it a whole lot because of the car that's in this episode.
Really?
Yeah, I love old cars, and that car, I just love how it looks.
I am probably shaking my head at Harriet and Rachel quite a bit. Rachel more so in this next episode. So we'll see. We'll get to it when we get to it. For those of you listening, if you like what you hear, subscribe, rate, and review The Delicious Recap Family Matters wherever you listen to podcasts. Questions, comments, concerns, feedback. If you want to recap an episode with us, anything, thedeliciousrecap@gmail.com. And follow us everywhere on the social medias. Facebook, Instagram, Threads, TikTok, YouTube, @Family Matters Rewatch Pod. Can't wait to see Jacques Apollo Bolton, Mr. Velvety radio voice, who is also a basketball legend at some point. And he actually, in real life, he actually did play quite a bit of basketball. So we'll definitely get into that.
Yes, definitely. I'm excited to talk about it. And we're going to have to ask him how to say his name because we have given him 12 different names in this one episode.
Jacquezzies.
I like Jacquezzies. I was thinking for a second, I was like, maybe it's like Jaquay.
Jaquay. Jacquezito.
Oh, no, Jacquezito. That sounds like a delicious food. Small plate at a restaurant that's like $1 million.
Sounds like some kind of like pasta, like calzone kind of thing, you know?
I would eat it. It sounds good.
Andrew, what would you say to a food that is just so scrumptious in front of you that also happens to be the slogan to our podcast?
Let's let some deliciousness ring here.